don't know if you can catch that valley across that stone wall there. Oh, look at this chimney. High-vis chimney. That's awesome. Everybody, it's Dick here. Today I'm out on the Street Cup in North Wales. This is the first time I've had the Street Cup up to Wales. I lie! Haha, I lie, don't I? Can anyone guess when the last time I had the Street Cup up to Wales was? Or the only time, I should say, that I had the Street Cup up to Wales? If anyone can guess, put it in the comments of this video, and maybe I'll send you a little prize. We can put all the correct answers in a hat. Anyway, it's been a long time since the only time I had the Street Cup up to Wales. I've had all of the other bikes up to Wales except for the Mutt. I'm on the A5. It's this conduit road that connects the main roads into Wales through Shropshire, I think. Ooh, I don't know if anyone can see it because of the aspect ratio on this camera, but there's a ruin at the top of that hill there. That's cool. Anyway, the A5 is it's the popular road that visitors to North Wales come in on. It's North Wales's version of a highway, except for the kind of North Coast Highway or a couple of the other dual carriageways that run through here. But this is the main road that goes up to the tourist area, and it gets very congested on weekends and in the holiday seasons, half terms and such. And a lot of people disparage the A5 because of how popular it is and because of the convenience of it. However, the long, lazy, slopey curves of the A5 are really fun to run if there isn't any congestion or traffic. And that's the trick, isn't it? The A5 has become so popular that they have put mobile speed cameras and fixed speed cameras, average speed cameras, when you get closer to Betsacued and Snowdonia. But even at speed limit speeds, if there's not a lot of congestion on these roads, this road is fun as hell to run. Circumstance has forced me to bring the Street Cup up to Wales, but I'm so very happy to be riding the Street Cup in Wales because when I'm riding these roads on other bikes, I think, how would the Street Cup perform? How would my Roadster perform on these roads? And I'm not disappointed in the early bits of these roads on how it performs. And I've had this Street Cup 2 years now, just a bit over 2 years, two and a half years. And other than the really long ride I did with Shakedown up to Scotland on it, is this guy even looking in his fucking mirror? This is what I mean by congestion. Ah, shit. Well, this is the last petrol station between here and my house. So I guess I have to do a top up. Damn it. Just after I pass that f***ing truck. Anywho, the Street Cup I've had about 2.5 years and it hasn't gotten a lot of use. When we made the move up to Wales, it stayed in London as my London bike. But I didn't spend a lot of time in London over the past year or so, so it didn't get run a lot. I brought it to the Dispatch Rally. It was fun to ride there. And every time I get on it, I'm pleasantly surprised at how fun it is. Because when I'm not on it, it's one of those bikes where I think I could sell that bike. I don't think about it a lot when I'm not on it. It's not like the Enfield, where when I think about riding my motorcycle, I think of being on the Enfield. I've actually spent a lot of time in the saddle on the Indian this past year, which has been very fun. And when Fanny rides the Indian and I'm on the Enfield, I kind of feel like I'm trying to play catch up, where this is probably the closest bike I have in terms of fun performance that I'd like to take out when Fanny's riding with the Indian. But I'll say that in the 2 years I've had this bike, I have noticed the limitations of it, especially at the top end on highway rides. But as I've gotten more miles on it and as I've gotten more hours in the saddle, this bike has broken in. This bike is broken in very nicely. And in the past, it would be a struggle to go over 70 comfortably on it. The engine can do it, but it's not a comfortable bike to ride over 70. But on the highway rides up here on some sections, I don't want to incriminate myself, but I've been going faster than I've ever gone before on this bike. And the engine doesn't seem to be straining when I rev it out the way it used to feel a bit restricted when you got up to about 5,000 RPM and higher. So that's encouraging. And the thing is, whenever I'm on it, I really enjoy it. And that's the thing, and Fanny won't let me sell it. I think Fanny thinks this is her second bike, which is fine, even though she doesn't spend any time on it. Whenever she's riding the Indian. Hey, look at this car. So while I'm riding this lovely road and getting into some more interesting roads, I thought I'd reflect on the ownership of this Triumph. As some of you may know, this Triumph was an impulse buy. I was in my local Triumph dealer and scouting out possible motorcycles that Fanny might like to ride and buy, to narrow it down so that her limited time of demoing would be targeted towards something that she might like. And they had about 8 Street Cups under studio lights, polished up, and they were on sale. I think they were just a dash over cost, which made them very attractive. And then I ended up picking one up on a whim. And I wasn't looking for a bike like this. I wasn't looking at this heritage styled Triumph. Mostly because these Triumphs, at the time, this bike was $9 grand. I didn't get it for $9 grand. I got it for considerably less. Considerably less. And at that price, at the price I got it, it was a bargain. Downright bargain. But there are some things I don't like. I'll start with the things I don't like about this bike. These ridiculous bar end mirrors. I filter in traffic, and I am very confident and comfortable filtering in traffic. But with these bar end mirrors, my filtering is extremely limited. So it's funny that I left this bike down in London as my London bike. because these stupid bar end mirrors do not allow for filtering. So the bar end mirrors, they gotta go. I was under the misconception that the Street Cup, the Street Scrambler, and the Street Twin were all the same bike, save for a couple of cosmetic changes. It turns out that this frame is not one piece, that this frame can be disassembled and different bits of the frame can be replaced and repaired without taking the bike apart. And you can get to the engine or parts of the engine without having to drop the engine out of the frame. And because of that, the lower part of the frame on this bike is different than the lower part of the frame on the Street Scrambler. And the levers here don't have the threads for stock traditional side view mirrors. But it turns out that this clamp on the front, this is where, instead of it being mounted over here by the pivot of the actual lever, like on most motorcycles, the thread for the mirrors are on this clamp right here. So all I need to do is actually take that clamp off, get those threaded clamps, put that on, and I can add stocked mirrors, which is a very exciting prospect because I hate these f***ing mirrors. That prick was 4 cars behind, and he saw me come out and he still passed me. Anyway, but in order to get actual Triumph mirrors, it's about 250 pounds. So that's a bit precious for a set of mirrors, including the clamps. But I think that's going to be a change I make even if I don't get Triumph mirrors. The handlebars are Street Twin handlebars, which I'm happy that the shop upgraded to these in that fire sale, and I think that's probably why they sold more than they thought they would, or sold all the ones that they were putting on discount, because they got rid of the factory Clubman drop bars, which makes this bike a lot more comfortable to ride. The other thing I don't like about this bike, and it's a change that I made, so it's a change I regret. I regret making the change. I picked up a Vance & Hines high scrambler exhaust in another fire sale. And I got rid of the factory exhaust pea shooters, which hung down low behind each of the foot pegs. It sounds great, it looks cool, but because this bike is different than the Street Twin and the Street Scrambler, I have a very sculptural aluminum machined foot peg. And I have no... First of all, the foot peg is too short to have a high exhaust because it's hard for me to get my foot wholly on the peg. I'm kind of hanging off on my heel. And the other thing is, I can't reposition it anywhere. I can't go up to my toe. I can't do anything other than hanging my heel on it. And so it's kind of uncomfortable to ride long distances where I need to readjust. I'm wasting fuel. I'm having a grand old time revving it out and I realize I'm wasting fucking fuel. Anyway. So I think what I've done is I've picked up a 2-to-1 exhaust from Tech Bike Parts, and I'm gonna get rid of this high exhaust. It's a shame because it's a 1,000-pound exhaust. I didn't spend 1,000 pounds on it, but it's a 1,000-pound exhaust. It's no longer available. Where'd that come from? So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm going to try and sell it on, because you can't get them anymore. So the high exhaust is a regrettable modification, but I did get a 2-to-1 exhaust from Tech Bike Parts, which tucks right under the right foot peg. So I'm gonna get that range of movement again, and I'll still get the 2-to-1 sound and performance that this 2-to-1 scrambler exhaust offers. I think really that those are the only hang-ups I have on this bike. People get hung up on the fact that it's only 5-speed. I think the way this engine is tuned, the 5-speed is perfect. I like the cast wheels and the convenience of being able to fix a flat on the road. I mean, there's a lot of people who they like this whole off-road aesthetic, and the more off-roading I do, I realize that road bikes are not suited for going off-road. Most of the riding I do is on-road, not for the last 2 years, but generally most of the riding I do is on-road. So the off-road aesthetic for road bikes, I think it's just the evolution of styling exercises. You know, you went from the 2008-2010 Cafe Racer craze, which this is a product of, to this kind of scrambler, to this full off-road adventure touring. So I think it's an exercise in aesthetics, and very few people are taking road bikes off-road, and a lot of road bikes look like they could go off-road, but they're not really off-road bikes. They shouldn't go off-road. I think I fell into that off-road aesthetic for an on-road bike when I picked up this exhaust. I actually bought this exhaust before I bought the bike because they were so cheap, because Triumph had to unload them to avoid legal ramifications. And I thought maybe I'd buy it cheap and sell it to someone. But then I ended up getting this bike and thought, oh, I'll put it on that bike. And it was a mistake. So, but it was born out of that idea of making an on-road bike look off-road. But this bike is a roadster. This bike belongs on the road, on twisty roads like this. Congestion. And so a little 2-to-1 pea shooter, I think, is the appropriate exhaust for this bike. The seat's relatively comfortable. There's not a lot of luggage options for it. But again, I mean, I end up I don't use this bike the way it should be used. This bike is a roadster in the sense that it should just be for hammering little roads and not going very far on. But it turns out my ownership is more Miata. That's cool. It turns out that my ownership is mostly long distances. It's short, it's compact, it's low to the ground, it's heavy as fuck when you're trying to move it around the drive, or try and lift the rear wheel to make some adjustments when it's not moving. But it is relatively nimble. It's a forgiving motorcycle, and maybe it's forgiving because of that weight. It's not going to flick you off like a Ducati. You roll off the throttle, it'll lurch to a stop for you. But you feel like you can hammer it a little bit. There's a good rumble to it. I like the tuning of this engine a lot. I'm glad I have it. It's forgettable. It's forgettable when I'm off it. But when I'm on it, I kind of feel like it's a capable placeholder bike, where if I'm going out with Radar and he's on the Ducati, or if I'm going out with my friend Will and he's on his R9T Scrambler, or if I'm going out with Fiverr on his Urban GS, or Klaus on his Moto Guzzi Grizzo, it's a good bike to have because I could keep up. But it's not the bike I grab the keys to. It's kind of the bike that if I need to keep up and have a good time, I'll ride this bike. If I don't have anywhere to be, I'll ride the Royal Enfield. If I have to go a really long distance and I plan ahead, I'll ride the BMW. If Fanny's not riding it and I want to just go out for a hammer, I'll go on the Indian. Off-roading, you got the CRF or the Mutt. The Transalp's in bits, so that's not going out anywhere for a long time. But yeah, it's kind of like, that's the best way to describe it. It's a capable placeholder bike. And when I'm on it, it's fun, and I'm like, yeah, this is a good-looking motorcycle. It performs well, but it's not memorable. Like I find myself looking at other bikes and thinking, if I need to lose one, the Street Cup is kind of on the list of things to lose. So we're gonna leave the A5 here for two reasons. One, the moors are here, and the moors are fun to ride in. This is the Evo Triangle here. And two, this is where we start hitting the average speed cameras. I don't want to be misinterpreted. This bike is not boring. It's not ugly. It's extremely capable, except maybe for the fuel efficiency. That's his biggest performance shortcoming, is the fuel efficiency. I don't know, but I find myself looking at other motorcycles. I probably shouldn't. I should probably just enjoy owning this. This is the Evo Triangle. The Evo Triangle was made famous by Evo magazine. You can see there's average speed cameras here because they used to do road tests along here, and then they published the route in their magazine, and then everyone in a supercar, hypercar, boy racer, motorcycle came up here and tried to do the Evo Triangle as fast as they could. A couple people died. Then they started putting cops out here, and then they put the cameras out. If it wasn't cloudy, just off the about 11 o'clock here, we'd be able to see the Snowdon Range. It's shrouded in cloud today. There's an asshole. Ooh, roadkill. Gorgeous. I'm going to concentrate on the roads because I've been thinking about bringing... Shit, going too fast. I'm going to get a ticket. I've just exceeded my average. I'm going to concentrate on the roads because I've been thinking about bringing the Triumph up here for a long time. And on every other bike I've been like, ooh, I think the Triumph would probably do best up here out of all the bikes we have. Well, I'm happy to report that it is as fun as I anticipated it would be. And I know I'm burning fuel, but if I keep it in a lower gear, I can rev it a little and stay within the speed limit. Click, 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 click. I should say that one of the things I like about this bike in terms of it being compact is also a detractor. The seat height on the stock kind of cafe racer seat, which is scooped, makes me really crunch and bend my knees to get onto these pegs. So anyone taller would feel really cramped in this bike. And I'm just about max height for comfort on this bike because I do get a pain in my knee over long rides. Luckily I haven't gotten the pain. I just felt the twinge, which made me think about it. But on long rides, and I say long rides, I've gone just about 400 miles in about 5 hours this morning, and I've only now started to get the twinge in my knee. But it's taken less time on shorter rides, but this bike is a bit cramped in the foot pegs, so you have to have short legs. I have a 30-inch inseam, so I think it's important to keep that in mind. I don't know if it's the same. You probably sit a little taller on the Street Twin and the Street Scrambler because they're thicker seats and they're not scooped kind of cafe racer seats. But this is a bit cramped in the knee. So that's another thing I'm unimpressed with, I guess. That detracts from the bike. Okay. We're about to hang a left into the moors. And the moors are fun because you have twisty roads, but you also, in the twists, you lose elevation or you gain elevation, so you have to be really aware of your center of gravity. What's also nice about the moors is you can generally see the exits of all your curves, and you can see people coming, unlike this little blind summit at the beginning. But you can kind of look ahead and anticipate if there's going to be a hazard. Now there are sheep along the way, so you can't really hammer it too much, but here we go. Been thinking about riding this little stretch of road on the Street Cup since I've discovered this stretch of road. Like that. Down, up, around, over. Some sheep running. Get out of the road, guys. Get out of the road, ladies. Oh. It's a good thing I don't ride fast. There's a lot more blind curves and summits than I remember coming through here. God. Oh. Water and gravel. The bike just squirreled under me. And I'm glad those two cars were on the other side of the cattle grate, because I would have driven right into their grill.
If you like that video and you want to see more like them, hit like, share, and subscribe.